Call the meeting to order. Would you call roll call, Sandy?
Councilperson Brenny?
Here.
Rooney? Brohart?
Here.
Hanson?
Here.
Huster?
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening. Thanks for coming out in the cold. And you're welcome to make comments on the agenda as it appears. And also item number 4 is citizens' opportunity to address the council on items not on the agenda. And with that being said, we'll move on to number 2, which is consent of agenda A, approval of agenda B, approval of the minutes of the November 25th, 2013 council meeting, and C, claims. Are there any discussion, questions around
Nice.
A, B, or C?
I make a motion to approve consent of agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve consent of agenda A, approval of agenda B, approval of the minutes of the 25th, 2013 meeting, and claims. Would you call for a vote, please?
Santa Claus?
Yes.
Councilperson Huster?
Yep.
Brenny?
Yes.
Bruning?
Yes.
Brohart?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Number 3 is projects. A is 2013 street overlay maintenance project. Number 1 is consideration of change order number 2 for Knife River Midwest in the amount of $5,279.61. Go ahead.
Council, this change order was for mostly for the additional pavement scarification that we had on the project. The asphalt was, from what we had on our DOT plans, was 3 inches thick, supposedly 3 inches thick. We found areas where we were getting to 6 to 6.5 inches thick, closer to the center line of the road. It was varying very much throughout the project, and we felt the best way to get the best product when it was all said and done was to mill out all of that asphalt, or most of it, and then put new back in. And that's why we overran on that quantity of the project. The majority of this change order is for that extra asphalt that's being milled out.
Did it stay pretty consistent on the outside edge at 3 inches or less?
It was pretty close. There were some places that dipped down to maybe 2.5, but it didn't get underneath that. The outside edge stayed pretty consistent. It was always only the inside edge that varied for whatever reason. I assume that had something to do with when they paved that center section of the road back in the mid-'80s, that they maybe changed the profile of the road a little bit. Therefore, they had to add a little more asphalt in some places than what they had before.
Well, while we're talking about this asphalt, what will be coming down the road, or when, as an engineer, would you recommend looking at possibly filling any of those cracks on Main Street down the road? Do you wait a couple years? What are we looking at down the road?
On the concrete or the asphalt?
Both.
Both. The existing concrete that's there now, it's always good to do crack filling and sealing. Depends how wide they open up. You know, sometimes you can just blow them out and seal those cracks. Other times, if you got much differential settlement, you might have to do some patching along with it. But if it's just cracks and it's not actual settling, you can just do some, just basically blow them out and then seal up those joints. As far as the asphalt, obviously have to wait and see if everything's going to reflect through that existing concrete that's below. Generally, that takes a couple years, and generally they start off pretty small. You can route those cracks to get sealing in, but I guess until they get bigger, I wouldn't worry about it. At the same time, it's always to be conscious of crack filling, because it is something that's preventative maintenance that does help prolong the life of the pavement.
I was also concerned about the separation between the black top and the concrete itself.
I took a look at that, and I think because of the fact that they got the tack coat, the sticky substance that they put down before they lay the asphalt up along the edge of that concrete, that helps adhere that asphalt to that concrete. I don't think that's going to separate. The other part of it is that the asphalt is a lot more flexible than concrete, so it will give, even in cold weather, it will give more than what concrete will.
All right, I was just concerned with that. Okay, thanks.
There are 2 other things on this change order that are deducts. One is a deduct for the water valve that was broken. That was money that was paid back to the city as part of their responsibility for that water valve. The other part was there was a little piece of curb that was damaged, new curb that was installed by the mill. that I didn't feel that the city should be responsible to pay for, because that was their nick in the concrete and into the curb and gutter, so.
So how much was that payback for the valve? Was that, I mean, because there was quite a,
It was $1,238.69. What that was half of the cost of all the material and labor costs of that valve.
Plus the cost of the notifications we had to do and stuff. It was Tom put together all of the costs, and then of course I came up with the cost for the notification requirements because there were some steps we had to do with DNR as well. So it was about 50% of the cost.
okay.
And you're happy with 1.5 of all this?
Yeah.
How about the final walkthrough? Did you and somebody else go through that? Were you happy with it?
I and the inspector, Ted, walked generally the entire project and looked for anything that was missing, but we did a very fine walkthrough with the subcontractor, the one that did all the patching, because they did a lot of the detailed work. After that, we did come back and look at the asphalt as well, but I was very happy with the way they cleaned up. Generally, that's one of the things that you, from an asphalt contractor, you don't see a lot of times is the cleanup afterwards. They leave asphalt scattered around on side streets and stuff like that, and they did a very good job cleaning up after themselves, and I was very happy with how it turned out.
Don't we have a period of time after the project is over where we have recourse if there's
Yes.
something that goes south on it?
I believe, I have to look at the specifications, but I believe there's a 1 year, it's either 1 or 2 years, depending on how the specifications was written, warranty period essentially from the date of final acceptance.
And how many, do you recall what that dollar figure would be?
It wouldn't be a dollar, basically it'd be
It's
just
just
for
a
them,
warranty.
it's on basically it's on their performance and payment bonds, for them to come back and
Okay,
and
that's
correct
where the
any
bond is.
deficiencies that would have been from what the work that they did.
So how would you evaluate their work overall and the job
Great.
that was done?
Of the asphalt HMA projects that I've seen over the course of my years of doing this, it'd be one of the best. I really do think they did a good job, especially with the winter conditions setting in, and they took the initiative to work on weekends when they needed to and try to take advantage of the good weather and get it done.
How much did those leaves bother that blowing in?
Believe it or not, this year it wasn't too bad. I don't know if it wasn't that windy or if it was cold, but they didn't stick. They didn't really come off the trees that much. That has been a problem before in past projects. They did have a couple guys out ahead of the paver with shovels to try to shovel out any ones that did come in there. And I know that was one thing that I talked with our inspector as we were going through the project, and he didn't have to tell them more than once because they were pretty much on top of it when there was.
Because I noticed that even when they're pouring, they were packing in some leaves on top of that too, and I'm going, I wonder how many leaves are in this whole project. That's gonna affect that.
I don't think there was very many. The worst part about them being underneath is
Yeah.
then you don't get a good bond to that surface below. The ones that are on top, that if a leaf gets rolled off on that top surface, that's going to degrade and it's really not going to hurt anything. But the ones that are on below, now the asphalt can't stick to that tack and that concrete below, and that's where it becomes an issue. But I believe they did a very good job on getting those out of there.
How did we come out on the whole project, Adam, with what we were given by the state and what the final?
Actually, with engineering fees, we come out real close to using just about everything we got.
Okay.
It falls right in there within $10,000 one way or the
I
other.
wondered if we were gonna take any out of any extra out of our funds.
Are you ready to make a motion on number 1?
I'll make the motion to approve order number 2 for knife.
Number 1.
Or number 1.
No, it's change order
Three.
number 2.
Number 2?
or-
Oh, okay.
Order
Oh, yeah,
number
okay.
2, item number 1, for Knife River Midwest in the amount of $5,279.61.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve change order number 2 for Knife River Midwest in the amount of $5,279.61. Would you call for a vote, please?
Councilperson Bruning,
Yes.
Brocart,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Huster,
Yes.
Brenny.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item number 2 is consideration of change order number 3 for Knife River Midwest in the amount of $517.42. Go ahead.
This change order was basically to adjust the final quantities to match the contract. We obviously used more asphalt on this project because we had to mill out more, we had to put back more. So that was one of the biggest costs in I'll call it in the positive column as far as doing that. But we also had the concrete beneath the asphalt was in very good shape. We had very little patching. Not very little, but significantly less than what we expected we might have. So those two kind of offset each other. And there's other little things that we found where we had to add an adjustment of an intake here, or there was some sidewalk that was added in a different place and different things like that. So this basically takes all those quantities and adjusts them to the contract, so it kind of cleans up the books per se as far as equaling everything out.
I make a motion to approve change order number 3 for Knife River Midwest in the amount of $517.42.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve change order number 3 to Knife River for $517.42. Would you call for a vote, please?
Councilperson Hanson?
Yes.
Huster?
Yes.
Brenny?
Yes.
Bruni?
Yes.
Brojart?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item number 3, consideration of approving Knife River Midwest bill in the amount of $29,150.54.
This is the sub-final pay estimate. The pay estimate basically pays the contractor for all the work they have done on the project. The only thing that they haven't been paid for is their final retainage. Final retainage is required to be paid 31 days after acceptance of the project. So this basically pays them for all the work that they've completed on the project.
This does include the 2 change orders.
Make a motion to approve the Knife River Midwest bill in the amount of $29,150.54.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve Knife River Midwest bill for $29,150.54. Would you call for a vote, please?
Councilperson Hanson?
Yes.
Huster?
Yes.
Brenny?
Yes.
Bruni?
Yes.
Brojart?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item number 4 is consideration of final acceptance for the project.
I'll make the motion for the final acceptance for the project.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the final acceptance of the project. Would you call for a vote, please?
Councilperson Bruni?
Yes.
Brojart?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Huster?
Yep.
Brenny?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Item number 4, citizens' opportunity to address the council on items not on the agenda. If there are none, I have something to bring up because I had a phone call from George Glass today, said it was too cold for him to come out this evening, but he asked me to do something for him. Ask if the council would give consideration to an exception for him to burn the trees that are out around the property next to his home that he cleaned up. He took down that old house and some trees, and he wanted to know if the council would consider giving him an exception to burn that stuff.
My only recommendation to the council is if you do this, you're going to have to give me a criteria for when we do and we don't, because this will open up the floodgates to people asking. Everyone's going to want to know when they can burn and they can't. I'd rather see you change the ordinance than make a exception.
Yeah, I was scared of that if we start doing that. Because then you gotta start treating everything.
Unless you just put the stipulation in there that if you tear down a house, then you can burn what's around it.
Well,
I would think that might be a criteria, because it is sort
well,
of a
he's
difference.
not asking to
It's a
burn the
different-
house, he's
No.
asking to
No, he's
burn
asking to
a
do, that's what I
grove.
said, burn the
grove.
trees.
Oh, there's in the middle of that, if you drive by there, in the middle of the junk, there's a great big tree stump and some other brush in there, and I believe that's what he's wanting to burn, because he's tried to pull it out of the ground.
I think it's the trees behind the pile of
Where the house was at,
Yeah.
yeah,
soil.
Okay.
yeah. But I mean, that could be the stipulation, if you tear down a house and you have trees with it. I mean, that's the way to get around it, I would think.
Well, we have other outlying areas where that could start applying, and we could, where are you gonna draw the line then?
Is that still considered city limits?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. We have south of town, west of town.
You might remember a year ago, Mr. Arrett who lived out on Old Highway 20 on the western edge of town, was expressed to the council his concern that the 4 months we allow burning prohibited him from being able to burn. He lived on the far edge of city limits where he was at. The council took no action at that time.
We took no action then?
Correct.
But what did he wanna burn?
Trees. He wanted to cut them down and burn them there.
Had he taken down property?
No, he
To
had
improve
cut
the
down.
looks of our community?
Well,
Or
Well,
no?
let me play a little devil's advocate for you. Put it in the middle of town. Say I tear down a house and I have some trees around I want to tear down. Would you allow me to do it?
If it
you know-
improves the look of our community, I would be for it, but
I
You
think
know,
we could be opening a whole can of worms here.
That's my concern.
and
do you think you really are gonna have that many people that have
Yes.
that big of a
Yes.
concern
I
with
think
it?
you're going to have, I think we have probably about 10% of the population that is opposed to the burning ban. Back in 2007, the city did an analysis. They did a survey to the public. They asked them at that time, would they like to see a complete burn ban? It wasn't a partial, it was a complete. 50% of people responded that they wanted a complete burn ban. 50% said that they didn't support a complete burn ban. The compromise at that time by the city council was to establish 2 months in the spring and 2 months in the fall when you could burn, and then prohibit it the rest of the time. That's the basis we've worked from since 2007. It's of course up to the council what they want to do, but I would strongly urge that if you're going to look at doing something here, you look at changing the ordinance itself. Do not create a special provision, because then you will bring in. Then I can't really. Somebody comes and sees me about having permission. I'm going to have to then be pushing everyone who comes to see us to the council asking them for permission.
We've got a lot of property to the north out there that's in city limits. That could be affected with this too, besides the south and the west.
Well, arguably, you know, trying to look at it from all perspectives, and you want equal protection under the law. How are you going to distinguish what properties have the right to burn on their property and which ones don't? Yeah, because if you start distinguishing it on certain parameters of where in town they are available to do the burning, you would also have to look at certain parameters of course, when they were allowed to do it. You know, there's quite a bit we would need to look into to decide how you'd want to do this.
Is there anyone that's ready to make a motion on this, either one way or the other?
It's not on the agenda,
Okay.
Barb.
Oh, that's right, we can't. I'm sorry.
We can't take
Okay.
action on it tonight either way.
Okay,
do you?
how would you want me to advise Mr. Glass?
I just think that the council is real uncomfortable with making an exception because the floodgates will be opened, and I think we really need to impress upon it that it's not George in particular, it's just everybody. Is that?
It'll work for me because, you know, I have had a lot of comments this fall, complaints about people burning their leaves. You know, either from asthma or from, you know, and if George burns that out there, we can't determine when he's gonna do it, what direction the wind's gonna be from. I mean, you know, and you have all those other issues that, you know, the council won't have control over, plus other areas in town that, you know, could open it up for burning too, you know, if they wanna take down some part of a grove or something, you know, I just think you're getting into an area that, yeah, I don't know if this council really wants to do.
He could just move the stuff out of the city limits and burn it.
Yes, he could.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's not that far.
no.
So, you know,
That would require hiring Burgess to shove it, you know, on our roads.
Yeah, I don't see why we want to open a can of
From what I
worms.
hear, you're saying that you would just as soon leave it the way it is. Unless I hear
Well, that's my
something
opinion.
different, that's where I'm going
my
with it.
It's not much of an opinion though, because you won't be able to vote anyway.
That's true, that's true.
And likewise, right?
I'm not planning to vote, I have to be the message giver. Thank you. License and permits, number 5. A, renewal license for Sac City Bowling Center, Class C liquor license with outdoor service and Sunday sales. John?
Never have any problems there.
Make a motion to approve the renewal license for Sac City Bowling Center, Class C liquor license with outdoor service and Sunday sales.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the license for the Sac City Bowling Center, Class C liquor license with outdoor service and Sunday sales. Would you call for a vote, please?
Councilperson Hanson.
Yes.
Huster.
Yes.
Brenny.
Yes.
Bruni.
Yes.
Brillhart.
Yes.
Motion carried.
B, renewal license for Casey's Marketing Company doing business as Casey's General Store, number 1331, Class C beer permit with Sunday sales. No problem. Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve Casey's marketing company doing business as Casey's General Store. Class C beer permit with Sunday sales.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve Casey's Marketing doing business as Casey's General Store, number 1331, Class C beer permit with Sunday sales. Would you call for a vote, please?
Councilperson Brillhart.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Huster.
Yes.
Brenny.
Yes.
Bruni.
Oops, yes.
Motion carried.
Item number 6, miscellaneous. A, consideration of canceling December 23rd, 2013 council meeting due to Christmas holiday.
I don't see it as a good idea, but,
You mean the cancellation?
right.
What
I don't vote, but my opinion is that it should be canceled.
Would it present any problems as far as bill paying or anything?
No, no.
He's just being difficult because of these two.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm not making this one. What? I'm not gonna make a motion for that.
Well, then I guess we'll have
then I-
December
then I-
23rd meeting then, won't we?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Well,
Works for me. I'll be around.
if you guys wanna, would you rather not have one? Adam, you don't have no problem with putting it off, do you? So therefore, I'll make the motion not to have the December 23rd meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to cancel the December 23rd, 2013 council meeting due to Christmas holiday. Would you call for a vote, please?
Councilperson Bruni.
Yes.
Brillhart.
No.
Hanson.
Yes.
Huster.
No.
Brenny.
If I vote no.
Teresa will be in charge of the meeting.
Bill.
Yeah, yes.
Motion barely carried.
6, miscellaneous. B, a representative from Chamber Main Street to address the council.
Good evening. I know most of you, but for those of you that don't know me very well, I'm Brandy Ripley, and I'm the director of Chamber Main Street here in town. And I just wanted to give you a little update about our facade grant for Sac City. A group of us went to Manning last Tuesday morning, and we had the opportunity to tour Manning, and currently they're going through their facade grant, their CDBG grant, and they're about a year ahead of us, and we have 17 buildings, so we had the opportunity to talk to them about some of their pitfalls and some of their recommendations. I think overall our visit was well. They had a slightly different approach than I think we may have had at the beginning. It was their opinion that if people were a problem in the beginning, they were probably going to be a bigger problem later on down the project, so they decided to exclude them from the project. That might be something we want to look at a little bit down the road for ours.
Problem, excuse, I didn't mean a problem.
Not thinking they might not be able to come up with the money, or thinking they might not want to be in the project. It was my understanding that they felt that people should be begging them to be part of the project, since they only have to put up a small percentage of the project for their buildings.
If they refuse to sign the easement, they would just say fine and just move on.
Not gonna beg them to take advantage
Okay, I
of
didn't
it.
know what
Not
the
gonna beg 'em
problem
to take
was,
free
whether
money.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were
Basically.
striking Chamber Main Street, Manning, or what, or?
No, their
whatever.
project is going very well. They like their general contractor. They're using Renaissance Restoration. We got the opportunity to tour while they were actually in the process of their construction, and the buildings that were boarded up, and everybody got along really well. One of the reasons that I wanted to go down to Manning is because they're using Region 12. They're using Fred Keston down there for their grant administrator, the same that we will be, and they're also using Peter Franks from Franks Design Group, the architect we chose to use too. And they said that Peter Franks is very well received. He works really good with the building owners. He keeps them informed, so they like working with him.
Who's their
So,
project manager?
Their project manager, it is their Chamber Main Street lady, Colleen Nelson, down there. And they started out using Fred Keston, the grant administrator, but Region 12 is not supposed to be being a project manager for these projects. It's supposed to be somebody that's able to visit with the business owners daily and has experience with the project. So Colleen took it over the project about halfway through. They ended up firing Fred from their project just because he didn't handle things on a day-to-day basis very well. He wasn't very well organized with that aspect. But he's been doing a good job for their grant administration part of it.
And it really truly is an amazing project, what they've done to the fronts of some of those buildings. And they put back all those transom windows, and one of the buildings had something kind of like it had tile on the front of it, sort of like Keith's, and they replaced it with a new kind of tile. It is just stunning. I mean, they're just doing a wonderful job. There was a building that had old cement above the doors, and it was quite ornate. And they're actually making casts to put that back. They're trying to make it historically correct. It was very, very interesting. They're doing an awesome job.
Yeah, their 17 buildings are right on the main street. They're basically one right after another. They've had a lot of local spending in their community with it because they've had to board off, the main entrances and continuously move doors. So at one point they said they pretty much bought out their local lumber yard. Their local welders had a lot of business.
Yeah,
so
they
it's
did.
been a
What
good-
was the cost breakdown? Like, we've looked at like 50, 30, 20. What are they looking at down there?
Their building owners are 10%, but they have more utilities than we had. So that was a good visit. If anybody has any more questions on the facade, I welcome you to give me a call. If I don't know the answer, I know where to find the answers at. But I'm looking forward to moving on. I just wanted to kind of give you an update where we are currently at. Leah Rogers with Tallgrass Historians is working on our Section 106 review, and that is to find the historical nature of our buildings to see if they're eligible for historic tax credits in the future. And if they are, maybe not during the time that we're doing the facade grant, but later on, there's a good percentage that they can get back in tax credits if they decide to make their buildings on the historical register, on a national one. I also wanted to update you guys. We had the annual visit with Main Street, Iowa on October 30th. Darlene Strachan and another lady came, and we achieved all 11 criteria for national accreditation. I did drop a copy off to Adam in the city office, so if you'd like to look at that, you can. You're more than welcome to stop in and look at our binder at the office too. We just recently had our parade last week. Thank you for those of you who are here that were in our parade. We did have 16 entries. I know not everybody came. It was pretty cold that night, but overall I've heard lots of good comments on that. We have, of course, a lot of other things going on, an iPad raffle up on the shelf, Santa's workshop, and of course our Avenue of Lights. And if you haven't had the opportunity to drive through that, you should down at Aqua Park. We've been getting rave reviews on that. Lots of thanks. It wasn't possible without our businesses and community people either, but that's been a very neat project, and hopefully it'll bring more people and tourism into our community. I also wanted to ask if there's anything that you guys would like to see the chamber work on this next year. That we'll be a part of.
I would say as the blue space activities pick up sometime probably in the spring, or they said 6 months was basically their window of time. I would of course hope to expect Chamber to take an active role in that process with us and assist us in that process.
One quick question here, back to that, your trip. What was the percentages of businesses that signed up? You said they were doing 17 buildings. How many, what was?
They had 15 businesses sign up for their project, and one of the buildings, they split into 2 different projects because it was such a large building. So they ended up with 17, and they had 1 join on.
Okay, out of the possibility of how many?
I'm unsure how many businesses they have.
Manning's Main Street. 17 would get those first 2 blocks pretty darn easily.
Okay, well, I didn't know whether.
Did they talk about how many potentially started the process, or how they ended?
15 started. But then again, they took 2 years to apply for their grant, so they had a lot of planning, pre-planning.
Pretty much all of the buildings that need help, except for one that's kind of sandwiched in the middle, that looks pretty good, but they wanted him to get involved so that he would have the facade like the rest of the buildings, and he chose not to, but they're thinking maybe after everything gets done, he will jump in the ring. But anything that needed work, it looked to me, signed up, because the rest of the buildings had either done a renovation or, you know, the building was in good shape.
The way they decided to do theirs is their approach was if they needed windows, they were gonna get windows. If they needed tuck pointing, they were gonna get tuck pointing. And it didn't matter if one building needed 10,000 and the next building needed 80,000 in work, they just wanted to make sure they had the same overall look. They used a color pattern, they had 3 colors in their palette, and then the building owners could pick where they wanted those colors to go on their buildings, so it kept everything uniform look throughout the community. And it is just amazing what just a little bit of paint has done to some of those buildings, if that's all the people could afford.
How many buildings in our downtown want to, or businesses want to?
We had 38 apply. And we're getting ready to have a building owner meeting with our architect and just kind of go over the general process, what to expect from start to finish. And then after we have that general meeting, our architect will start meeting one-on-one with the building owners. And then I expect that that number will probably dwindle down quite a bit.
Which is too bad, but.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you all for the help you've provided, to the chamber this year and helping us get our office down the basement done too. We appreciate it. Thank you.
And thanks for coming.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Randy.
thank you.
Okay, next is C, consideration of resolution number 2013-24 entitled Resolution Approving a 2014 Consultant Agreement between the City of Sac City and Olson Associates Incorporated for the Sac City Municipal Airport.
I make a motion to approve the resolution 2013-24 entitled Resolution Approving the 2014 Consultant Agreement between the City of Sac City and Olson Associates, Inc. for the Sac City Municipal Airport.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve resolution number 2013-24, resolution approving 2014 consultant agreement between the City of Sac City and Olson Associates Incorporated for the Sac City Airport. Call for a vote, please.
Councilperson Hanson?
Yes.
Huster?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
Bruni?
Yes.
Crowhart?
Yes.
Motion carried.
D is consideration of advertising for a 2014 pool manager. I have a question. I thought there was some talk about the community center adding this to their role.
Yeah, and
Is
that's
there still-
something that's something I'll be talking with Ashley about to put those together. But what we should do, what we usually do, is start this process early and
Trevor,
see
do you want
who's.
it back?
There's nothing to say Trevor won't end up applying. I do think it's his intent to take some summer classes to graduate early. So I think there's a good chance he's not going to. But I think I think in connection with those ongoing discussions, Barb, over the next 2 months, I think it'd be also a good idea for us to go ahead and proceed on a dual path to prepare for the fact that if that doesn't happen, we're ready to
It
fill
was
the
just a
position.
question. I hadn't heard any more
Just
about it.
because of advertising does not mean. we have to
Absolutely,
accept it.
yeah.
Someone want to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion that we advertise for a 2014 pool manager.
Second.
Go ahead.
Motion has been made and seconded to go out and advertise for a 2014 pool manager. Would you call for a vote, please?
Councilperson Crowhart?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Huster?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
Bruni?
Yes.
Motion carried.
E, approval of contract and taking sealed bids for cemetery maintenance contract.
Is this the old bit, is this the old form?
Actually, there are a couple of minor modifications, Nick. Under the duties of the caretaker would be responsible for attending a council meeting once a month from the period of April through November. Makes them a little more accountable, and if people come in and have comments here at the council meetings or something like that, it allows him to be here to answer our questions directly in a public setting.
Do you still grade him every week,
Monthly,
monthly?
yes.
Did the news pretty well get moved out of there this year?
They were dealt with, but not before a request was made to have them done, action done.
I was in there.
There is one thing that I'd like to add to the duties of the caretaker is to remove and everything that is on the, around the stones, such as the trees and the, there's a lot of stones you can't even see who it is, and that should be removed. There's a lot of families that probably never come to see their stones, but still, just for respect of the person that's buried there, should be cleaned off and disposed of.
When you're talking about the trees, is the caretaker also responsible for picking up all loose branches and stuff like that
Yes.
out there? Is that correct?
This is all mowing of grass, trimming of trees, trimming of secondary trees. I did add a little bit of extra explanation here. Trimming of secondary trees, removal of ivy and other wrapping vegetation, trimming around gravestones or markers, and all necessary labor and work to make the city cemetery known as presentable and acceptable in a reasonable fashion. So I did add to the explanation to make sure that it specifically recognized secondary trees and talked about the ivy wrappings.
If they remove all the debris and so on around the stones and so on, will that present any problems, do you think? You know, people complaining that shouldn't have been removed or whatever, is that?
If you're talking about peony bushes or something like that, maybe.
But a peony bush is different than the ivy and the extra trees.
I know, I understand that.
That's, and I would think that they would be smart enough to know that that's supposed to be there maybe.
I think a problem we've had in the past is consistency in application. We have seen some areas of the cemetery where everything will be cut back, and then in other areas the vegetation will be allowed to grow around the gravestones. And I think one of the things we need to stress in the next season is consistency. And one thing we probably need to decide specifically, and I'll pull out the resolution, there's actually a resolution that states what the rules are pertaining to the growths you have around you. What your expectations as a customer of our cemetery should expect for those growths. But if you have a permanent growth, we need to make sure that we're educating our mower on what those permanent growth rules are so that they're consistently applying it and not picking one section to cut down and the other not to.
Well, while we're dealing with this contractor, how often, certain times a year, we have somebody come in and we'll drill holes in the base, you know, so you put the flower container into that base. Because I do realize that sometimes people put a steel one on the outside, you know, and that requires, you know, making sure you got a weed eat around that or move it, weed eat, put it back. How can we encourage more of those holes getting drilled in the base so, you know, it makes everything a lot easier for the caretaker? You know, is that, you dealt with this, DT, so.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever get, there's a lot of people, believe it or not, that never see their grave. The family's gone, they're not gonna expend any money on
No, I'm
this.
talking about the ones that actively go out there, you know, can we make this available to them that say, hey, you may wanna consider, you know, drilling, you know, I don't know.
I don't think that's gonna work. I think one of the biggest things that would, they're not supposed to have the flowers in front of the stone anyway. It's not supposed to be there. And we should reinforce that by saying, hey, whoever so-and-so, you're gonna have to remove that because this is our policy not to have this in front of your stone, you know. And that's pretty lax. We never ever have done that, but it gets out of hand.
That should be published a few times in our newsletter and maybe in the paper. Maybe it's ignorance. Maybe they don't
Well,
know.
that's what I'm sure it's, you know, well, people aren't aware that, maybe we shouldn't be doing that.
When it gets to be closer to to summer, I think that it would be to put it in paper as a reminder, but
Put it online on the website, put it everywhere you can put it.
Well, I thought there was at one time a deal here, DT, where, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, that we usually got a list that for somebody for $10 would drill a hole in that base so you can put that rod in there, or does somebody do that, or is that something
That's
that's
the
never been
first.
done?
I
Yeah,
can't,
that's the first one.
I never heard of that, but.
Okay, I was just curious, but I think, to not only help the people that do this, so we don't have this conglomeration and say, here's the concrete base, and you got a lot of flowers out there, and I can understand that, but it does take time away from the caretaker to remove all those, weed eat that, and then put them back, So I was just trying to figure out if there's a way that, that could be addressed somehow to make that easier for both parties. I didn't know.
I don't see anything problem with doing an education type of campaign.
Okay, well,
I mean, you'd at least hit some people. I mean,
Yeah,
you're not gonna.
you could get some of
Because
them.
usually the people that are that concerned, to put that, for the respect of their loved ones out there, I'm sure would be more than receptive to, hey, we'll change this here or something.
I think they want to do exactly what they want to do. It's a personal thing.
Well,
And as long as their rules are set up and people know the rules and they follow the rules, I don't think you can force them to drill a hole in anything. I don't.
I don't either.
no,
I
I
don't
was
think
just
that
saying
would
if that
work.
was an option, I'm not trying to force it.
I think you could probably offer it if you could find somebody to do it, but I wouldn't, the city should not be paying.
No, I agree.
mean,
I would just,
Are you ready to take sealed bids for the cemetery maintenance contract?
I'll make a motion that we approve taking bids for the cemetery maintenance contract.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve of contract and taking sealed bids for the cemetery maintenance contract. Would you call for a vote, please?
Councilperson Frohart,
yes.
Hanson, Huster,
Yes.
Brandy,
Yes.
Rooney,
Yes.
motion carried.
So we don't have any more questions for the engineer, do we? So if you want to take off,
I was just.
unless you want to stay, or.
Well, he's on the hour. I mean, hell,
F,
$150 an hour, he's just gonna sit here until we.
He's making sure we are, so.
Okay, all right.
We're moving on to F, which is introduction and first reading of ordinance number 2013-252, entitled an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Sac City, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to Chapter 95, subsection 5, sanitary sewer system, sewer connection required. Thank you for being here.
I had a visit from Sherry Wilson. She notified me that when our ordinance was put into place back in 2007, that there were some changes made to the state administrative code in 2007, and that we were in need of updating our city code, pertaining particularly to when a sewer line or building within 100 feet of the property line, there is a sanitary sewer main, would be required to hook up to our system. The way ours read was that if it could be done so by gravitational flow, they were required to hook up. If it required them to use some kind of pumping services to do so, it was not required for them to comply. In 2007, through administrative code, it was changed. And now the code does not allow for that, that certain caveat. Now, irregardless of pump or no pump, it's just simply a hard line from a certain distance. So this would update our code to be consistent with state code.
But it'll grandfather anybody that's done this.
Of course, we can't force it against anyone who's already in place.
I I make a motion to approve ordinance 2000.
We need
We have to have it introduced first.
or the
I'll make a
resolution.
motion to introduce the first reading of ordinance number 2013-252.
Now we made a motion to approve the first reading and a second.
I make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2013-252, entitled an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Sac City, Iowa, by amending provisions pertaining to chapter 95, subsection 5, sanitary sewer system, sewer connection required.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2013-252. The ordinance amending the code of ordinance of the city of Sac City by amending provisions pertaining to chapter 95, subsection 5, sanitary sewer system, sewer connection required. Call for a vote, please.
Councilperson Houston,
Yes.
Brenny,
Yes.
Rooney,
Yes.
Crowhart,
Yes.
motion carried.
Public input on solid waste. If there is none, we will move on to item number 8, which is council forum.
The county league meets this Wednesday in Lytton. If any of you are interested in going, I believe Annette's been hitting you up to get a head count for that event. And the second day of our orientation is tomorrow.
At 7 o'clock.
7 to 3, yes.
Okay.
And you're gonna still do the noon thing? Want me here
Yes.
or not?
Yes, please.
Okay.
You may have also known at your council spot, for those that aren't in such a hurry to get out of here at the end of this year, there's actually, I know Bill, you turned one in, but I found a committee missing off the list. So if you and Teresa would please take the time to fill this form out sitting in front of you here. It's an updated committees list. And I'd ask that you, by Wednesday, have that filled out and turned back into me. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, is there a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion not to adjourn.
I'm not gonna go there.
I withdraw that motion.
Someone make a motion to adjourn?
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call for a vote, please.
Nick, oh, GT,
But no.
We get two done.
We're missing somebody,
Ready?
so be careful.
Yes.
Yes.
Rooney, Crowhart.
Nick?